Don't wait till the battle's over. Don't wait till the struggle ends. Shout now, shout now, right now. Shout now, shout now. Don't wait till you make it.
Hey everyone, and welcome to the PHILLIP Show. You know, I was just talking to somebody the other day. One of the topics that we were talking about mental health, counseling, talking to a therapist, speaking to a therapist, and it seems to be kind of a trend to discuss how taboo it is for people to go to the therapist. But on the other hand, it just seems like a lot of people are jumping on board and making it cool to go talk to a therapist. But are they talking about substantive things? Like, are they really getting to the root of needing therapy? How do you know that you even need it? And how do you know that it's working? Well, listen, in a safe atmosphere of acceptance that promotes healing and deepness and deepens understanding, Turning Inward LLC is a counseling private practice that supports individuals and promotes lifelong change. It helps people to find more peace, contentment, and an improved sense of well-being. So, to discuss all of the things that I said just a minute ago and more, please help me to welcome licensed professional clinical counselor of Turning Inward LLC, Tracy Hunt. Tracy.
Hi, Phillip.
Hi, how are you today?
I'm great, and thank you for this opportunity to talk with you this morning.
Oh, wonderful. You know what? It's my pleasure. It is my pleasure. You know, sometimes we have like light conversations, and then there are these conversations that are like in the public domain that are a little bit heavier and that take a little bit more knowledge and expertise. You know, so I'm super excited that you're here to kind of tell us a little bit about you, but also to have a discussion about what is therapy, how do we know we need it, when are we done with it, what does it all, what does it all mean? So before we jump into all of that, I have a question for you.
Sure.
So I want to start with that question. You know, what exactly, and this is very broad, but what exactly does therapy do?
I think, and I will say, not exactly, but I think it could be very helpful for people, you know, when they are just feeling weighted down with pressure in life or things that, events that have happened that have thrown them off guard, right? Life throws us curveballs, and that can be hard to deal with, right? And that's a continued thing throughout our life, right? We aren't born and wow, everything's just easy peasy across, the continued path of our lives. That's not the case, right? Things come up, things happen. And one of the big things, one of the reasons I got into counseling was, to help people with grief. And that interest came to me because of, in my life, being a teenager, my dad got sick with cancer and then passed away. And so that, it's just one of those things like, people get sick, people die. We can intellectualize and tell ourselves these things, but the emotional stuff is a wreck inside, right? Because it's like, someone very significant died. And so, putting the pieces back together or navigating a really big change like that. But anyway, that's kind of I would say the big impetus of how I got into therapy and wanting to help others is just knowing like this is a normal everyday thing that happens, right? Life is, there is an end to it. So it's like one of these things that could just be kind of a very normal instance, but it can really rock your world.
So when you started your journey as a professional counselor, tell me really quickly, what is your complete title? What is your complete title?
It is licensed professional clinical counselor. And so after our names, therapists, counselors, or mental health professionals, we generally do put our degree
Okay.
That's common practice. And so you might see, like I, for example, put the MSED for Masters of Science in Education, and then a comma, and then the LPCC.
Okay. And how did you, when you started to understand that this was something that was interesting to you, you were passionate about the healing and providing that opportunity for others, how did you go to specialize or to actually say, this is the type of therapy and the types of individuals that I would like to help?
Mhm. I'll just say though too, like my path has never been a smooth, straight arrow, like so many of us, right?
Yeah.
But anyway, and it continues to evolve
Mhm.
even now. But I knew I was comfortable with grief, and I knew I was comfortable with anxiety, helping people navigate big changes in life from personal experience.
Yeah.
So I tend to advertise and help, people with things that I have lived experience with.
Got it.
For example, too, on that same token, like, I'm not too comfortable or interested in like working with addictions. It's just not something that really speaks to me. I think it's kind of like trusting your gut,
Okay.
and then too, I had some experience with helping people with disabilities right after I graduated with my master's. And so I do have, interest in that, helping people with disabilities, people living with chronic pain. So that, it's just kind of your experiences in life, right? I didn't just have I'm going to help this, or this one thing, and it continues to evolve.
That's interesting that you say that, because a lot of times people don't know how to either pick a therapist, how to know if the
Yeah.
therapist can relate. You had mentioned that, addiction really isn't your area of interest. You're interested in other
Right.
areas because of the experiences that you've had. Do you
Right.
find that it's, and I don't know if you can speak for others, but is it better, let's say that if somebody was looking for a therapist, is it better for the therapist to have gone through something similar to the person seeking therapy, so they can relate in that way? Is that necessary to make a successful exchange?
I don't think it's necessary, but I would venture to guess most therapists are doing the work because they've been through some stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Something's led them to this place. Maybe they themselves didn't maybe have addiction issue, but maybe someone close to them.
mhm.
Just staying with that example of addiction.
Uh-huh.
Um, yeah, or maybe they too did, right? Now they're
Yeah.
like, I want to help people get over this because I did. And, yeah. Um, so I you may not always find that. I
Yeah.
don't. I'm sure there are very competent people out there treating some things that they haven't had experience with, like schizophrenia, right? Like
Mm.
someone who has schizophrenia likely isn't going to be able to get through schooling and be able to help others with that kind of thing. So yeah, leaving room for, there's going to be instances where someone may not have that lived experience, but still could be very helpful with someone.
Yeah. No,
And
that's
maybe
that's
again, maybe they have experience through that with a loved one or friend or someone, right?
Yeah, it seems like somewhere there's a thread of not just interest, but something that pulls on the experience, I guess, string to
Yeah.
yeah. In society today, and I opened the show with this, and I want to get your feedback on this. In society today, there is like this big conversation. It seems like, which is good, a big conversation about breaking down the stigma of seeking help for mental health issues and being able to identify them. But there's also, it seems to be kind of the wave of now it's kind of cool to just go to therapy. How,
Mhm.
what is your perspective on the wave of interest in mental health? And how do we, I guess it's two part, what's your perspective on that? And for somebody seeking to go to mental or to go to a therapist, how do they determine when it's time to go?
Mhm. Um, anytime someone does choose therapy, I think it's a good thing.
Okay.
As long as they're trusting their gut, I don't think they would just go for the fun of it. And I don't see that often. Once clients are improving, it's kind of like, psh, bye. Right?
Yeah.
Which makes sense. Like, yeah, that's the whole point. Sometimes we're like, we can feel a little like, oh, well, we'll miss that, interaction with that human, but that's what it's about.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I would say, like, if it's on anyone's mind that, hey, maybe I could benefit from talking to someone, or do it. And the people who maybe it might seem in society people are jumping out and just doing therapy because it's the cool thing to do. Maybe they portray it as that, but they may really have something significant going on that they aren't sharing about.
Sort of like masking.
Maybe, yeah. I think that does happen. But I love like destigmatizing mental health concerns and going to therapy. I've had people come that are like, I'm not really sure I need this, but yet they're there. I didn't pull them in the door.
And you bring up a great point. And that goes back to one of the questions. I know people are going to be watching this, and maybe they're thinking about going, or maybe they heard about people going to therapy. How do I know if I need to go to therapy? A lot of times, it's kind of like I go to the doctor because I'm sick. There's some symptoms that I have that says, hey, this has happened and you need to go here. How do I know that it's like, hey, you might need to go talk to somebody?
Paying attention to changes, like in how you're feeling, what your thoughts are, right? Like what kinds of internal messages are turning around in there. Right? Negative, negative self-talk, or putting ourselves down, anger, right? It's called behavioral health for a reason. So, like, paying attention to behaviors. What are you doing? Are you maybe, could someone be self-medicating? So there's a behavior, right?
Got it.
Are they, maybe being impulsive, doing things that they didn't once do? Or maybe they did, maybe gambling, for example, just for an example. But, like, maybe it was something that they could enjoy here and there as a fun thing, and now it's like a weekly thing, right?
Yeah.
So, like, the behavior has increased more, and it's, and so that's more of a visual that someone, someone might be doing that a family member or friend might notice. But two, there's just stuff going on internally where people can put on that mask and it's not that obvious, right? And that could be more, thoughts of like, what's it all for? What's the point in any of this? Or, right? Like, we can go down some rabbit holes in our minds sometimes.
Don't look, you sound like you got my therapy sheets over there. Don't tell the people my business. But yeah.
And we're all susceptible to it. We are, and so and then too, like, are you, again, back to behaviors, are you withdrawing more, or maybe you're being real out there, real extra, right? Like not getting enough sleep, or prioritizing self-care, and all the things that someone would do to take care of themselves. And two, like, this gets more serious, but if it's affecting relationships, if it's affecting your work, if it's causing legal problems or financial problems, you probably should speak to someone, get some kind of help.
For a long time, I know a lot of people kind of tough it out and try and do it on their own.
That's right. Yeah.
Like I'll just figure it out. And I know, and and I can be transparent. I know that, that was a very big testimony, if you will, for me. It's like, no, I got this. I don't need to talk to somebody, or I don't need to do this. I got this. And a lot of times we don't, and I think as you're speaking, it almost gives relief to know that when you're facing these either behaviors or mental challenges or changes in our outlook on either life or us as a person, that we don't have to sit in that space by ourselves. It's like we almost have permission to say, hey, let me bounce this off someone because this sounds real crazy in my head. That doesn't sound like the truth,
Right,
It doesn't sound like the truth. And that we go through so many seasons. There's summer, spring, winter, fall, and some people have seasonal depression. Some people, get really anxious during the holidays and other, I guess, high impact seasons. It seems that those who suffer from, say, anxiety or depression seem to have an increase of the symptoms, very similar to what you were just saying. Why is it during, let's say, either the holidays, and how do we address it without it snowballing out of control? How do we identify it quickly?
I knew this question was going to be something for our discussion today, so I did put together a little list yesterday. But I'll try not to just sit here and read from it. But anyway, if it does look like I'm reading for a minute, that's why.
Well, if it helps, I just read that question. So, so you can very much read.
Thank you for normalizing that. I appreciate it. But and I appreciate you being vulnerable and sharing too, transparency, and I've been there too, right? There's been holiday seasons where it's just really tough or whatever. I will say, as a very young person, I'll admit this, but I know I did want to try and find a boyfriend partner to going into holidays, and I've heard other people say this too. So then you're getting through Christmas, New Year's, and Valentine's Day. And then it was like, after that, right?
Yeah.
There might be a breakup because they were just kind of like somebody you needed for the hard holidays.
They were a Band-Aid.
That's right. I can totally admit that I did that, many years ago. Younger person. Anyway, one of the things is, and then again, stuff I've, lived experience, but so could someone be putting too much importance on a holiday, right? I do think that, right? So if we're using Christmas, for example, what really is it? Okay, it's the birthday, maybe not the actual day, but it's a birthday, right, of Jesus Christ. So let it be that. Why do we have to put so much more meaning or power with it? Could it be we're just, putting way too much weight or significance or importance on that day and the meaning behind it. And then for holidays, I would say don't assume if you don't have something going on or somewhere to go, don't assume that people who are spending time with families that they're enjoying it.
Is that and it's comforting because it helps people who feel sad or depressed or whatever, feel like there's other people that feel that way, but is that kind of sad though? Is it kind of sad to have that outlook like, well, you're at the party but I know you're not happy? I know that was not that funny, you do not want to be here. It's like, is that a sad outlook to have?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Do you think it's sad?
I mean, I think it's comforting to, just to make, I think it makes me feel better if I feel like I'm depressed and I'm like, woe is me, kind of. If I'm the Eeyore, if you will, from Winnie the Pooh, if I'm the Eeyore that day, then I can project that onto other people and like, you couldn't possibly be that happy. So there must be, you must be, that's not real. So kind of almost mentally bringing them into my situation instead of me looking for the positive, I bring them to the negative.
Yeah. But it's just in your head, you wouldn't say that to them. Do you know what I mean? Yeah.
Well, let's hope not. Let's hope not. But that's a that's a really great point. Mm-hmm.
Well, just pointing out, I know plenty of people who, it's Christmas, so they have to go, be with the family and all that. But then it's like, if this is a friend or a family member, and they're sharing things with you because you have a very close connection, it's a struggle for them to go to some of these things, right? I'm just meaning it could maybe give you a little solace,
Yeah.
You know, it might be a hard day for me if I'm spending this alone, but I know my friend's going through something hard too because they aren't alone, but it's, you know, still a challenge because they have to be around certain people that aren't healthy for them to be around.
That's good.
Just something to maybe keep in mind.
Yeah.
And then too, if you have to be around your not favorite people, right? Using boundaries.
Whoever do you mean? Everybody's our favorite. No, okay. So boundaries.
Boundaries, yeah. Boundaries can be, you know, space and time, and you know, like so, you know, I like this comes up, you know, this time of year, and I'd like to help clients with it, you know, with cooking skills. So you have to go to the event. There's people there that are like, you know, so perhaps, you know, plan ahead, and then maybe you know, put in your FaceTime, but you know, limit that time there. You know, oh, we have to go to the other thing, for example, right? Like, so good to see you. We have to go now. There's another event, or what have you.
Yeah.
But anyway, and then the other thing too that popped into my mind was, you know, if there is this sense of loneliness during the holidays, or I don't have anywhere to go, or, you know, I don't have, my people aren't around that I would hang out with, or what have you. You know, like, you know, I'm sure you've heard, like, we can help ourselves when we reach out to help others.
Sure.
So, you know, maybe again, I think planning ahead. We know this holiday is coming, you know, or whatever holiday is around the corner that's going to be hard for us. We know it's coming, it's on the calendar. So planning ahead for that day. Excuse me. But too, like, you know, is there somewhere perhaps you can volunteer, right? Somewhere where there's a great need. It could be an animal shelter, or maybe a homeless shelter, or a soup kitchen. Or those are just examples. Whatever pulls at your heart, right?
That's great.
You know, there's someone out there always in need. Maybe it's children, you know, in the foster care system, or children's services, right? Like,
yeah.
So that sometimes, you know, I think we can, you know, we've all done it. We can wallow, right? Oh,
Yeah.
This is hard. I don't have anything to do, and it's a holiday, and everybody's so out and singing carols and happy. I mean, there's always someone else that's got it rough too, and so maybe we just kind of, you know, it's a challenge, right? So it's an opportunity to grow personally. Like,
I love that. Yeah, that's really great. And I like the fact that you were saying, like, kind of plan ahead. I think when it comes to different holidays and things like that, we kind of know, people kind of know how they get during the holidays. So it's not 9 times out of 10, unless there was like a recent trauma or something like that, it's predictable. You know, Christmas is coming around, and I feel like this on Christmas. So what you said is super, super impactful, because it's like, I know I feel this way on Christmas. What am I going to do? Whether I feel this way or not, I don't want to wallow in it, like you said. So what can I do to kind of beat out? I can't, you know, guarantee that I'm going to feel a certain way. However, I can do some productive and positive things instead of just being alone by myself. I can help. I can be of help. Yeah, that's good.
Right. You perhaps can be of help. I do believe I have gone to a movie on Christmas, but that's a thing, right?
Yeah, it is.
Movie theaters are open.
Listen, it's a thing.
Go catch a movie. Like, make it a funny one, not like a sad one, you know.
Right.
It's something, right, to kind of like help lift your mood. You know?
Yeah. So there are things that we can do, people can do.
That's right. Mm-hmm. You know, or, you know, like, turn it into a self-care day, right? Make it a challenge. Yeah, really, maybe give into it. Like, make it a challenge. Like, I'm going to do Christmas this year alone, or whatever the holiday is. By golly, you know, I'm going to get through this. And, you know, you can just, make your own self-care plans for the day, right? Have favorite things of yours, you know, your comfy blanket, your, you know, bubble bath, or whatever it is that feels good to you. Yeah. Have your favorite foods, you know, your favorite movies ready to go on the Netflix, or books, or whatever it is that's nice and comforting for you.
I love that. Yeah.
Let's see here. What else did I have on this list? Oh, two, you know, again, like, viewing it as a challenge and like an opportunity for self-growth. Sorry, I don't think I said that right. But perhaps with your safe people in your life, you'd be a little vulnerable with them, and maybe you would let them know, you know, hey, what do you guys have going on for this holiday because I don't have anything, right? But
Yeah.
again, being mindful, careful who you share that with, right?
Yeah.
You want to make sure it's with a safe, a safe person in your life that you can be vulnerable with.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe they wouldn't mind, having you around for, maybe they have their family unit, but let's have one more. Like, why not?
Yeah. That's wonderful.
Yeah. But like staying in your power, I think that's really important, and knowing you have choices.
Mm.
And you can choose to, go down the rabbit hole of wallow in self-despair.
Yeah.
Or you can try and view it some of these other ways, right? Some of these other things that we've talked about. Staying in your power and you have choices. That's always a good feeling, knowing we have choices.
It very much is. And I love the way that you broke it down practically, because I think anybody listening can say, oh, yeah, I could do that. Sometimes people just need to hear it.
Yeah.
Sometimes people need direction, like do this, try this. And I think that's why, therapy is so important, because, you can sit and talk to yourself and kind of try and figure it out by yourself all day long. But there's something different when somebody gives you either some advice, or you bounce it off someone, or there's some different action plans that you didn't kind of make up for yourself. And you're just like, okay. And I think it goes back to, you're not alone. You're not doing it alone. And I love when you said, read books. There's so many opportunities when it comes to reading books. And it's almost like somebody else is telling you like a little blueprint. It could be an adventure, but it could be a self-help book. It could be an encouragement book. But, even in that, there's still another voice outside of yours.
Outside of your own, right?
Yeah, outside of your own.
Yeah. And even though, I'm of a certain age, I still like some of my favorite books and I'm meaning like fiction, is young adult. I find some of those very uplifting, right? It's a first time young adult books, it's often a first time for them. So it's a first time struggle. But they tend to not be written in such a serious, maybe language as some others, past that age frame. But anyway.
So for people who are listening to you and taking notes, because I know somebody has a pen and paper out there, like I'm doing that, I'm going to the movies. How can someone connect with you, say for more information, to see what it would mean to connect in a client therapy kind of way? How do we find you?
Yeah, the phone number is 937-321-9794. They can call or text. Either one is fine. It's a mobile phone. And then of course you're putting the website up, and but the email is Tracy TracyHunt@turninginwardllc.com. I should have left out the LL. I wish I made it a little shorter.
It's okay. It's okay. So you are, where are you located, Tracy?
My office is in downtown Yellow Springs. I'm at 100 Quarry Street, and I'm behind the House of Ravenwood.
Okay.
There's a little hallway with like 4 office suites back there, and there's a shared waiting room. So that's where my office is located. But go ahead.
I was going to say, so you have a physical location, but do you also do virtual meetings as well?
Absolutely, yes. Yeah. Ever since COVID, that forced me to the online therapy world. And I do have a HIPAA compliant platform portal. Kind of like when you're dealing with your doctor and they have an online portal where you can complete paperwork and message. I have one of those services. So yeah, and I go online only in winter. So yeah, with the time change. So it's coming up.
It is. It's like, it just feels like yesterday we just sprung forward.
I know.
My, it's going fast. Well, Tracy, thank you so much. You gave us so many things to think about. And for me personally, you just kind of opened my mind to so many more possibilities. I firmly believe there is such a power in hearing ideas and gleaning information from others, and not just what we can create from within ourselves.
Sure. Yeah. And thank you, Phillip, again for this opportunity. You have a very warm, loving presence, and I've heard about you. I knew about you before you reached out. But anyway, lovely to share this time with you.
Thank you. And I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful holiday.
Thank you.
There's several of them coming up. Thank you so much, Tracy.
All right.
So that's Tracy with Turning Inward LLC. And whatever you do, just make sure you either took notes or you rewind, watch the episode again. There were some nuggets in there that can help us all. There is so much that we can do to remain balanced, to remain supported, and to know that there are people that will walk through processes and mentalities, whatever it is, with us, answer questions, give ideas, open up our perspectives. So be sure to reach out to Tracy if you would like to. Her information was presented, and you'll also have it later on. But just remember that nothing is insurmountable. There's always a plan that you can follow. There's always an option that you have, and there are always people that are able to speak into your life. You don't have to do it all by yourself. And just remember that you are the best you in the world. We'll see you next time here on The PHILLIP Show.
Don't wait.